Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers here on the East Coast of the United States of America. It is 7 p.m. We have a terrific guest coming on shortly. He's been on before. He's a great patriot, and I've got to tell you, one of the most brilliant people I've ever run into with regard to putting Britain, the United States, Canada, and other countries in context, in historical context leading up to our time. Folks, what you just saw is a video that we put together because we really wanted to answer a question that many people were concerned about in years to come. Last night, as you know, many of you know, I had met with the the Asian American Republican Coalition here in the United States. I met with their national president, and during the conversation I had with him and others after my speech to the group, I shared with them what's going on in Canada. I shared with them that there is a great need for organizations to come together and to fight the good fight of faith and to run this race united against the Chinese Communist Party, against socialists, against tyrants like Justin Trudeau and Joe Biden and others. So we're going to have that discussion soon, and I'm going to ask them very, very pointedly if they would come on board and do everything they could to address the problems that the Canadian people are facing. I've learned recently there are thousands and thousands of individuals from India who live in Canada, Indian Canadians, as we have here Indian Americans. And I've got to tell you that they too are suffering under some great strain, if you will, with regard to the policies that the Canadian government and the US government are handing down to their people. So saying that, at the end of my speech, I asked the question, what are you going to do 20 years from now when your son, your daughter, your grandson, your granddaughter ask you the question, what are you going to answer? In fact, I'm confusing myself here. What are you going to do when they ask you the question, what did you do in your time? When there were lockdowns, when there were violations of civil rights, when there were violations of human rights, when there were violations of freedom of worship and freedom of religion and freedom of speech. What will your answer be to them? So we had this little video put together reminding people that this is why we're in the fight. We may not see a lot of the changes that we are looking to make sure take place during the time of, let's say, 2022, 23, and 24. We might not see it in the next few years. But by golly, we're going to make sure that our children and grandchildren will see it. So that's why we're working so hard today. That's why we're working so hard to ensure that the freedom and liberty that we have enjoyed right up to this day, because we're still enjoying freedom and liberty. A lot of these organizations, whether it be the WEF, the WHO, and others, they're working very hard to take those freedoms and liberties away. But we're going to make sure that they're going to stay solidly planted so that our children and grandchildren could stand upon those foundations. So that's what we wanted you to do, is just take a look at those young kids in that video, maybe some in your neighborhood as you're going to work, as you're taking your children to school. Take a look in their eyes and realize that what you're doing today is very worthwhile to them. They don't have a voice. We're their voice today. And they'll be tomorrow's voice for their children and their grandchildren. That's how important our work is. So please keep that in mind as we move forward. Folks, tomorrow night, a programming note, tomorrow night I will have the Crackpot Farmer on. That's quite a name, isn't it? The Crackpot Farmer, but he's far from being a crackpot. The guy's got a story to tell. He is from Canada, and we decided that we would have a special edition tomorrow night where he will be given enough time as our guest tonight. We wanted to make sure that our guest tonight has a lot of time to share with us what is on his mind. So tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern time here at Campaign for America, you're going to find another exciting broadcast. Now, tonight we're going to end a little early, not too early, maybe around 7:50 Eastern time, because we're going to be having our one of our final meetings. We got about 3 or 4 more meetings with Project Maple Leaf. The research is just about complete. I've got to tell you, I've got reports that I've read that are absolutely stunning with regard to what has happened in Canada in relation to government policies. And I'll tell you right now, I have some reports right here, and the work that our team has done on the WEF, on the WHO, on the police, especially, which really troubles me, being a retired police lieutenant. It's just shocking. It'll shock anybody in the free world how the people of Canada, the good, freedom-loving people, were treated by their government. But we plan to move ahead with this, and we're not going to stop. And I got to tell you, folks, I never thought there'd be a day when I would say that we would have to make sure, without any doubt, that those who violated the law, especially police officers, and I know some of you watch this broadcast, I know some of you who have committed certain acts are probably watching, but you will be prosecuted. I'm going to do everything I could, and I know there are others who are going to do everything they could to make sure that those of you who violated your oath of office, who destroyed people's property for no reason, and the politicians, and I'll say it every single time I'm on the air, whether you're a congressman in the United States or a member of parliament in Canada, you will be held accountable for your actions. If you think you have immunity, well, you're going to have a rude awakening. You will have no immunity, because some of the things we found, and I know with regard to Ronald Meterand and Alan Nicholson and the team up there who are working with regard to bringing criminal charges against a lot of these people at The Hague, I've got to tell you, there's no escape. There's no escape from justice. None at all. So keep in mind that you might want to be ahead of the game. And I said this to cops all over America, and I'll say it to those of you in Canada. You better think about breaking that blue wall down. You know what the blue wall is if you're a cop. You might want to break that down. You might want to go talk to somebody, and you might want to make sure that you protect yourself, because the politicians aren't going to protect you. If you committed crimes, if you violated your oath of office, you're not going to have any politician come to help you. So maybe you better think about becoming a whistleblower and get some protection, just like I've shared with FBI agents in this country. Because if you don't, you're going to end up behind bars, believe me. You're going to lose your jobs. You're going to lose your pensions for violating your oath of office, committing acts of violence against innocent people. I'm not talking about police brutality. I'm not talking about excessive force. We have it on video. We have videos from the people of Canada, and they're not going to be put in a bin, or they're going to be put in a storage room. Well, you know, we'll wait until maybe things calm down. Well, things aren't going to calm down, because the people of Canada and the people of the United States have had it up to here. And we're going to work within the framework of the law, and we're going to make sure that those people who committed crimes against innocent people are going to be held accountable. Now, one more thing before I have our guests come on. I understand that the restrictions in Canada are disappearing at the end of the month. If that is a fact, expect to see me and a few other people from the United States coming to your country. We will come. And if we can, we'll make arrangements. We'll find a kind of a middle spot, maybe a province somewhere in the middle, so that a lot of people could join us at maybe some town hall meetings or whatever. But I'm looking forward to coming. And with the restrictions down, it shouldn't be much of a problem. As long as they don't put the restrictions back up when I cross the border, I want to come home, for goodness sakes. So we'll see how that goes. All right, let's talk about a young guy who I really got to like in about 15 minutes. Matthew Everett. Now, Matthew, before I put him on, I probably messed up his last name. On this broadcast, I seem to mess up everybody's last name. But Matthew Everett, listen to this quick biography. Editor-in-Chief of the Canadian Patriot Review. He's a senior fellow at the American University of Moscow. He's the author of Untold History of Canada book series and Clash of the Two Americas trilogy. In 2019, he co-founded the Montreal-based Rising Tide Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, a real gentleman, a real patriot. And Matthew, welcome to the broadcast.
Hey, Lieutenant, I'm always happy to be with you.
Hey, listen, we got about 45, 50 minutes. I had to cut a little short tonight because we have our Project Maple Leaf meeting, but we're going to have you on a few more times, all right? Sure. Now, let's talk. Oh, listen to this. You see, Matthew knows that when you're in the presence of cops, right, you got to have the cup of coffee.
Yeah, it builds rapport. It's good.
Yeah, we call it Dunkin' Donuts. All right, Matthew.
Here's Tim Hortons.
Yeah. Fascinating work you've done. I read something very fascinating that you sent me with regard to this. You called it the trifecta: Britain, Canada, and the United States. Before we get there, I do have a couple of questions that would be of interest to our American audience, and I'm sure as well as your Canadian audience. We find it rather difficult to understand, at least I'll speak for myself, that Canada is a sovereign country and yet accountable to the crown, to the British monarchy. Now, I might be wrong. I'm learning something from you tonight. So can you help us weed through that a little bit?
Yeah, it's a major mythology that's been created by mythmakers managing Canada since the 19th century, that we have an independent, sovereign country beholden to the will of the people. That's not true. And you can see it. I mean, people have, I think, seen the viral video of Justin Trudeau delivering his oath of office upon entering the Prime Minister, the office of the Prime Minister in 2017. And it was slavish. I mean, actually, it was 2015, but he entered the Privy Council. And he doesn't declare his oath fealty to the people or to a constitution or to the general welfare. Nothing of the sort. It's very clearly, as he says in his own words, I will do everything as a good servant ought to do for Her Majesty, the Queen, and her heirs, and keep all good secrets secret that are given to me in Privy Council. And every single Prime Minister, unfortunately, as well as many people in the private sector, have been inducted into this Privy Council and have interfaced with networks of think tanks that are directed not from Canada, but from London, the City of London, and British intelligence for a very long time. This includes fifth columns in America that are tied to things like the Council on Foreign Relations, what Hillary Clinton called the mothership. That is the American branch of the British Roundtable Chatham House organization. So Canada is not, unfortunately, a real country. And in my writings, I try to get that across, although there are patriotic and good impulses to be cherished in Canada as well. I don't want to say it's all fake, but there's a lot of fakery, an uncomfortable amount.
Well, what I'm puzzled about is you have a parliament, and they pass laws.
Yeah.
They institute policies in your country. Do they have to send whatever they pass to the Queen to get her stamp of approval?
Everything that becomes law on the federal or provincial level has to receive royal assent by the Governor General, if on the federal level, and by a lieutenant governor. Every province has installed a lieutenant governor representing the agency of the Crown across the ocean, which has to check off, give a royal assent, or let's say a parliament is going to be prorogued. You know, if there's a vote of no confidence, what we had, for example, not about a decade ago, was Stephen Harper had a vote of no confidence, and immediately a day later, it was Harper knocking at the door of the Governor General, begging the Queen's hand in America, in Canada. The official head of state is the Governor General, to please let him stay in power, while the opposition groups who coalesced together said, please let us have an election. And the question that people should be asking is, what the hell is this person who's unelected? Why is every elected official groveling at her feet for permission to go forward with a policy? It's insane. Now, yeah.
All right. So now, how do the people of Canada become a sovereign nation without any allegiance, any accountability to the Queen? I mean, I just find it incredible that we've got a country with millions of people, their own parliament, their own police, their own military, their own everything, and yet they have to be at the beck and call of the crown in England. I don't get it. I really don't.
It's difficult to wrap the mind around, and don't get me wrong, it's a very self-controlling process. There's very little need generally in the past 150 years for foreign British intelligence to physically intervene within the process, because there are a lot of checks and controls with the Canadian deep state, which again deals with the entire, it's not just the Privy Council, but it's also the Privy Council office. It is a major hub of bureaucracy that is a center command structure which controls CSIS, or the Canadian equivalent to the CIA, the Canadian security establishment as well, which is our branch of the NSA, that's part of the British Five Eyes apparatus internationally. So it's this entire bureaucracy, a shadow government, which has been maintained over generations. And at different times, there have been patriots who have been able to resist, fight against this thing. And in my book series on the Untold History of Canada, I try to bring their stories to light as much as I can. And I think that Canadians still have to finalize that battle. I mean, Americans had made the right decision when the 13 colonies chose to break free and declare themselves an independent country. And Benjamin Franklin was up here in Canada in 1776 in April for 5 weeks, trying to organize the last colony, mostly French speakers, to come down and be a member of that Continental Congress, to sign together saying, we will declare together these 14 states to be independent. And unfortunately, there were assassinations, different Jesuitical operations that kept Canada locked under the crown. And Benjamin Franklin left a little saddened. And we have to recapture that moment, I believe, in the future to declare ourselves finally a real country.
Yeah, you know, I've said it over and over again. Canada was never on our radar. You guys were the most friendliest, kindest, and still are the most friendliest, kindest people on the planet Earth that I know. I mean, it was just, I've been to your country, I believe, once, crossed Niagara Falls, and was able to look around. And, you know, I mean, it was just a great experience. But I just find it hard to believe that we know little about Canada here, other than it's a great, a free, wonderful land. And now we have been awakened as a result of the good work. And I will always say this, the good, solid work of the truckers who went on to have the sign there, the Freedom Convoy, and awakened the world. So I get back to this point because, as you say, it's hard to wrap my arms around. So how do you, within the framework of the law, how do you become finally a sovereign country without being held accountable, as you said, and you said it well, to an unelected person who, in my view, and I could be wrong, seems to be in charge of the money, in charge of your military, in charge of everything, every walk of your life? How do you change that to become like the United States without being held accountable to the king?
Well, I think there's quite a few steps between that moment where we finally become a real republic for the first time, because we came close in our history. There's been several major moments where we almost actualized the potential of a weakened British Empire. We had friends in the United States at different moments, like Abraham Lincoln or Franklin Roosevelt or John F. Kennedy, who were able to do successful battle against the British intelligence operations that had seep in through the State Department, or as Trump calls it, the Deep State Department. It's not a new thing. This goes back a long time. This is what killed Lincoln. It oversaw the murder of McKinley. It oversaw the murder of Warren Harding, of FDR, of John F. Kennedy. And whenever you had a great patriotic American leader who was able to wield real influence, like-minded kindred spirits in Canada were able to arise on the provincial level, usually, sometimes on the federal level, who were able to work together to gain economic and, to a certain degree, political freedoms, independent of British foreign policy. Unfortunately, over the past, I would say, 50 plus years, it's not been the case. Now, we did see something very, very patriotic and strong with the Freedom Convoy movement. It was a strong people's movement, and we have something within the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which is something to work with. It's not a strong constitution, but it's something legal that you can fight with in battle. That's important. But people have to be aware where its limitations are as well, because we don't have inalienable constitutional rights granted to us in our legal system, though they are there by God's law. They are there no matter what. But in the legal codes of Canada, whether in the BNA, the British North America Act of 1867, or in the 1982 Charter, the rights that are there are subsumed under the idea that they were given to us by a monarch and can thus be taken away. They're not inalienable as they are in the U.S. Declaration or Constitution. It's a different concept of law. So there's something to do battle with. It's good. The fight for our freedoms, and the fact that we got the government itself and the entire shadow government apparatus running Justin Trudeau like an idiot puppet. We got them to bend and pull back from their draconian policies on COVID. That's good. That's very strong. We need to see more things like that. But I think we really need to see a discussion around what it means to be a real nation with a real constitution. That conversation, the last time we had that conversation was in the early 80s. We need to have that conversation again, because it ain't.
All right. So what's the starting point? Now, I'm thinking of, now, is the Queen still on your money? Is she?
Yes.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
So why don't we remove that and put Brian Peckford on there, one of the founding fathers?
That I think would be a good start.
Why don't we do that? Hey, look, I respect governments. I respect everyone I could, but when it comes to the freedom and liberty of people, especially with regard to what's happening in Canada, and it doesn't seem, at least I haven't heard, and maybe you have, whether it be the Queen or the new King or any leader in Britain weighing in on what we call the tragedy of the way the people in Canada were treated by the police and by government officials here. It seems to me that, like the politicians in Washington, send me your money, Canadians. Send me your money. Do you pay a tax to the crown? Do you pay money to them?
Well, yeah, I mean, 90% of Canada's land is known as crown land. It is the legal propriety of the crown itself as something more than the individual queen or king. There's an institution of the crown. Yeah. Crown corporations, for example, are the Bank of Canada is a crown corporation. It's not, people say it's public, a public entity. No, it's a crown corporation. The legal owner is the crown as an institution. So yeah, there's a variety of ways that wealth is extracted from Canada. A lot of it people don't even think about, and a power is exerted, like the fact that now King Charles is himself the person who was selected. He has handlers as well. Okay, it's not like an evil genius running the world in the throne, but he was the one selected, not Klaus Schwab, not Bill Gates, to be the person inaugurating the Great Reset in June 2020. Why did they pick him? Well, because they're seeing a revolution in British Commonwealth affairs, which involves the Five Eyes. It involves a recapturing of the United States, according to the manifesto put forth by Cecil Rhodes over a century ago, to recapture the belligerent lost colony, using their Rhodes scholarships, using their think tank network around the CFR, Chatham House. This is what's being done now as the King, Charles, sees himself as a messiah-like figure endowed with the mandate to remold human society around this great reset logic of a new technotronic age. That's really how he sees himself. And he's got many people in Canada, like Rhodes Scholar Chrystia Freeland, the Deputy Prime Minister, who interfaces closely as well with Mark Carney, another World Economic Forum trustee, who are major controllers of this policy, which is an anti-human policy pushed around the idea of restoring a global world government, which is another way of saying global British Empire, because the British Empire is not what people think it was. It's something much more malevolent than they realize. It's been whitewashed in history. All to put forth a new type of pseudo-scientific religion around transhumanism and a new eugenics for depopulation, reducing the world's population down to sustainable, levels, as they say, of, I think about 1 billion is what they think their computer models say we're allowed to have. So that's what these Canadians and British assets are being deployed to do.
Well, speaking of reset, there's going to be a big reset here in about 50 days because we're on our way to throwing out every single congressional representative in the Democrat Communist Party that's sitting in the Congress. They're becoming a train wreck. They're running, folks in Canada understand this, and we're really asking you to look at this carefully. They're jumping ship. They're whistleblowing on each other. As I said, the Democrats in this country, they know they're going to lose power, and they know what's going to happen after January when we take control. And I think that's important to say, Matthew, because a lot of the Canadian people, I've received a lot of their letters, but more encouraging ones since we've been on the air. They're losing heart, and I get it. But you got a prime minister. I got to tell you, I've seen some crazy things pulled by politicians, but this recent video of Trudeau looking like a drunken whatever and maybe high on drugs, I don't know what his problem is, but that was a video that went worldwide. I mean, look, like I said, I may not agree with the monarchy and all that, but I got to tell you, you respect everyone, and he was an embarrassment. I mean, not to the Canadian people, embarrassment to himself, because I think and believe people around the world know the Canadian people. But here's my question to you regarding that particular act. Has anybody, because I haven't heard, in the Parliament address this? Has anybody said, hey, look, the Prime Minister's, I heard he's missing in action. Is this true? He's not around? Your Parliament's in session and they don't know where he is, or he's in hiding, or maybe he's with Hunter. Maybe no longer. Folks, here's what I'd like you to do in Canada. Let's have a little fun with this, all right? All over America, we've got signs, bumper stickers. Where's Hunter? Where's Hunter? Where's Hunter? We still don't know where Hunter is. We got his laptop. We got all kinds of evidence and corruption that we think they're involved in. That'll come to fruition in January. How about where's Justin? That's all. 2 words. Where's Justin with a question? Where? All right. Maybe we'll have a few made here. So it sends a message, right? I mean, Matthew, it does send a message.
Well, that first came up. he's got a funny way of disappearing in hot moments, you know, and right when the truckers arrived in Ottawa, he disappeared. He came down with COVID for the 9th time or something, right?
Yeah.
His 20 boosters didn't work for him, and he just had to disappear. Now, I mean, the guy himself is a synthetic shell of a nothing. He's a shadow of a shadow, and I've said this many times. His handlers won't trust him to go out in public and say things when he doesn't have a friendly, controlled audience. So it's
hey, let me just stop you. I'm watching the chat. Where's Justin? Where's Justin? Where's Justin? Where's Justin? So they're popping up.
Good. It's starting.
Folks, we could laugh sometimes. Believe me. You laugh. What they say, Matthew? Laughter is the best medicine.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad we can laugh a little now because there has been great success in Canada. With some of the court cases, with the Freedom Convoy, this issue with the Hague. You're familiar with that? What's going on with the criminal charges that are now being brought to the 250,000 signatures you need in Canada. You have 130,000 and climbing every day. And there are, I read the documents that are going to the Hague. The Hague's agreed to hear the case. Provided the process, is followed. So that's why the Canadian people, you may not know this, folks, but you're on the way to a major confrontation with the Canadian government and Justin Trudeau in Brussels at the International Court. And that issue, Matthew, is something that we're watching closely here because based on what we see occur there, we have some governors that are going to be held accountable for their actions too. It's fascinating. I don't know if you knew about that. I didn't
know about this. That is interesting. I do need to know more.
Yeah. I think you'll find it absolutely incredible, the work the Canadian people have done with regard to that. All right, now let's talk about the trifecta. Okay, this is something that I think we need to talk about because we got involved in this. Obviously, we want to help the people of Canada with regard to their freedom and liberty, but we felt that the way Trudeau was moving was becoming a national security threat to the United States, whether it be economically, whether it be through his policies of literally economically enslaving the people of Canada. But also what really troubled us, what triggered a lot of this was Bill C-11, which would regulate incoming and outgoing transmissions from Canada, to and from Canada. We call it the electronic wall. Yeah, I understand that's in your Senate. So saying all of that, let's talk about this. What's going on between Britain, the United States, and Canada? And I understand the new British Prime Minister is not very friendly with Joe Biden for whatever reasons. We'll probably figure out shortly. It's probably over the war in Ukraine, which is Biden's war, by the way. He's dragging everybody into a mess.
Oh, yeah, no, Liz Truss is a warmonger. She's even said she's willing to use nuclear weapons against Russia. She said that.
She said that?
She said, Liz Truss.
Folks, what's with this side? You know something, Matthew? I find this amazing. Joe Biden, maybe we'll use nukes. Liz, we'll use nukes. Putin nukes. Everybody wants to nuke everybody. I mean, I have not even heard of this during the Cold War. The idea with Reagan and Gorbachev was to negotiate, to sit down, and to use diplomacy to prevent nuclear holocaust. These people, folks, I got to tell you, we really got to make sure when you go to the polls in whatever country you're in, you got to remove them all. They just got to go. They're going to drag us into something where there's going to be a point of no return. Trifecta, Matthew.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think the differentiation you tend to get between the Liz Truss policy and the Biden policy, any apparent schism or tension that you see has nothing to do. They're all on the same page regarding the need to put up a new Cold War, use Ukraine as a proxy war against Russia. Liz Truss just poured nearly $3 billion in weapons to Ukraine to basically get Ukrainians to sacrifice themselves for a proxy war, just like Biden. So the same policy there. But I think what you tend to have is a bit of a fighting over who's going to be in a more dominant position in the New World Order. So the current financial system was designed to collapse, to be blown out under a controlled demolition. That's understood by all parties. The fight now amongst those controlling the transatlantic domain is, will it be the U.S. in a more dominant position with Britain as a junior partner, or, like I've been saying, will this British global intelligence racket be the dominant force with a renewed global commonwealth, which represents 54 countries that has the Queen as the head of state, including India? 54 countries. That is today, what is the British Commonwealth? It's almost the same thing as the old school British Empire in terms of 21% of the territory, global controls of global narcotics trafficking. Cayman Islands is a British operation that is where international money laundering goes. International drug proceeds get laundered. The Virgin Islands, Cayman Islands, Isle of Man, all of these things are British. So it's all controlled by the City of London. That is the command center to Wall Street. So there's a fight right now. It's a hectic fight. It's an insane fight. But they're afraid of Russia because Russia has instituted, and Putin, when he talked about nuclear weapons, he simply said that if Russia is existentially threatened, he will resort to them, and as has every single Russian leader throughout history that has had nuclear weapons. He's not the one bringing the fight, though. He's in a defensive posture, and that's a very important differentiation to make. The thing, though, is that Russia is, with other Eurasian countries, setting up an alternative economic security architecture outside of the controls and influences of the Great Reset fanatics that want to create a one-world unipolar government to reduce the world population. So it's a clash of two different systems, which is why there is such a push for war with Russia. I would say also with China, too. As far as Canada is concerned, and the trifecta, as you brought up, as a historian, I try to approach everything with historical context. And it's very important to do that because when you look at the Great Reset, the founder of it was not Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab he described his mentor as Maurice Strong, a Canadian from Saskatchewan, who was a Rockefeller asset, early on recruited in the 1950s to David Rockefeller's apparatus when he was working there in New York. And then he became a mining magnate, head of Power Corporation, and the guy who selected Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Maurice Strong is the same figure who set up the Club of Rome of Canada alongside Pierre Elliott Trudeau and a bunch of other Rhodes Scholars, like Maurice Lamontagne and Roland Michener, our Governor General in 1970. They used taxpayer money from Canada to fund the MIT Limits to Growth pseudoscientific program that justified for the first time why the world has to be depopulated to deal with the resource scarcity. It was fake science because it ignored the existence of scientific creativity and technological progress. They pretended that did not exist.
Matthew, what's before I go on, folks, you see the email under our pictures here? You want the petition that was going to The Hague? Email Alan at that email address. Okay, it's right there. I'm going to leave it up for a while, and we're going to have Alan on giving us updates periodically, once or even twice a month on our broadcast. But there's an email. So we'll leave it up there for a little while, and you can email them now, and I'm sure they will respond. All right. So Matthew, so what's their end game? I mean, look, no tyrant has ever lasted. See this flag? See this flag here? You can see this Canadian-American flag? They're still standing. They're still standing. Freedom and liberty still stands. Every tyrant in the past is gone. They're buried, and they're probably burning in hell at this point. But what is the end game? I mean, I hear about, depopulation, climate control. They want total control over our lives. They're going to die one day, okay? They're going to die of old age. They're going to run out of gas. What is the end game here?
There's two levels. There's what they believe in and reality. They have a romanticized view of a restoration of a technotronic feudalism. So they've got a romantic idea of what feudalism was when the human talking cows knew their place on a plantation or a feudal estate, and the lords, the ladies, the hereditary elite were happy in their castles having orgies without really having any skills, right? It's the working talking cows did the work, and we knew our place, they knew their place. It was a perfect, in their world, crystallized, perfect world. They want to bring that sort of social arrangement back with 21st century technologies to sort of make the thing a little bit more transhuman. So it has a transhumanist veneer, but it's feudalism. And I think ultimately what they are afraid of is death. I think when you listen to people like Yuval Harari or a lot of the transhumanists today talking about merging human beings with machinery and uploading their, encoding their soul into a cloud, what they're trying to talk about is basically a cult, modern versions of occultism that tried to find a philosopher's stone to defy mortality. Everyone's faith as a human being to die. And they're afraid of their death, and they want to try to cheat death by living forever, which is not going to happen, but they delude themselves.
Let's address that a minute, all right? Okay. Which brings in the spiritual aspects of things that I like to talk about too.
Okay.
Listen, in my view, all right, we're living in prophetic times, okay? Not everyone accepts that or believes it, but at least I do in my view. We're living in times when we're going to see evil rise up, But at the end of the day, they lose. I mean, they could think that, well, they're going to die or cheat death and all that, but there's an afterlife. I believe that. I believe there's a heaven and a hell. And I really believe that they're working so hard against freedom of religion, freedom of worship, as the CCP is, and communists have their entire history, because they are afraid that what we believe in is an absolute truth. They're trying to eliminate it. They're trying to avoid it. But whatever the case is, at the end of the day, I really believe that they lose and we win. I can't see it any other way. Look, I've said this to a lot of people who don't believe in that. I've said, look, if I'm wrong and they're right, I've got nothing to lose. But if I'm right and they're wrong, they lose everything, including eternity. And I don't understand how a human being or people like them could get to a point where they think they can enslave all of us and yet not be held accountable even to a God, maybe because they don't believe in God.
Yeah, no, I think that they tend to. There's some people who try to discover and honor God outside of and see themselves as made in the image of God, and try to modify their choices and be better people according to the discovered creation that the Creator made, which is infused throughout the universe. And then there's some people who try to assume that the Creator is made in their image as people, and they try to act like gods themselves. And I think the oligarchy is contaminated with a God complex. They try to they tell themselves that they are like God. And as such, they lose touch with what they actually are, and they live in a world, I think, a bit of an inner nightmare. I don't think their dreams are all that peaceful, but they're so enwrapped by their ritualistic fantasies that have been passed down to them generation to generation, that they don't know what it means to be a true human being. And so
Matthew, in America, we always hear on the air now, we got to tackle our mental health issues throughout the country. I think the first place they got to tackle the mental health issues is the leaders of our countries. I mean, we got really some sick people in office. What you just articulated and described was, not only those probably who are in leadership positions in Canada, but here in America and worldwide. And we got some sick people in office. And so the question is, and I get it all the time, and I know there's an answer, probably a few answers, but I think we've begun to address them. I really believe they are becoming very fearful of we the people, people like you. You're educated. You know exactly what's going on. You could pretty much pinpoint everything historically. They're afraid of people like you. They're afraid of people like the solid, strong ministers and rabbis and religious leaders around the world, because they know where it all began and where it all ends. So I used to hear from people, well, how does it feel to have Trudeau or Biden or those people as a thorn in your side, Lieutenant? I put it the other way around. Matthew, you, me, and others, and all these patriots watching, we're a thorn in their side. And we've got to understand that we do not fear them. They fear us. And I believe that's why they're jumping ship here in America, the enemies of freedom and liberty. In Canada, like I say, I know I sound like a broken record. I mean, you guys have absolutely rocked the entire planet with regard to this convoy and the way you really work within the framework of the law, and your preachers who've been arrested, and I mean, on and on and on. So my point is this: they could have all these imaginations that they want. They could worship the devil, because I believe through their actions, that's what they do. We have a God. We talk about sovereign nations. Well, we have a sovereign God. And I really believe this is history repeating itself. Pharaoh in Egypt tried to do this with the Jews. We've had Hitler in Germany try to do it with people, and mainly, again, the Jews at that time. We've had Stalin. We had Lenin. We had Saddam Hussein. We got that maniac that's sitting in Tehran over there, the Ayatollah. We've got people like Trudeau and Biden, in fact, Trudeau it looked like he was on drugs or alcohol. At least maybe there's a bit of an excuse as to why he behaved the way he did. We got a president, he doesn't know where he is half the time. So what I'm saying is, we've got people in office who believe exactly what you just articulated. And they're really, really trying to take all of us down a path of destruction. but it's not working. We have resisted here in America. You've resisted in Canada. The Netherlands and other countries are beginning to resist. I think it was Italy even a couple of weeks ago. They threw out some of these, I really believe, mentally deranged, not even mentally unfit for office, but deranged. I mean, are we at that point where they're deranged? I don't know. I don't know. I think Matt just pushed a wrong button there. He's going to be back. But the point is, folks, we're winning. When I say we the people of Canada, we the people of the United States. I know some of you from the Netherlands watch, and Germany and other countries watch. At the end of the day, we win because there is a sovereign God. And I think that's where a lot of people miss the point. All the fighting that's going on, all this rage and hatred that the left and that the communists and the WEF and the World Health Organization trying to take our sovereignty and enslave us, not maybe in chains and handcuffs, which, I bet if they had their way, they would try that, but enslave us economically and through laws that are only suited to keep them free and not us free. We're winning this fight, and they know we are. And I think that's why when you don't see news conferences taking place with Joe Biden, when you see Justin Trudeau hiding, I think that's when you see that they are afraid of us. Glad you're back. We thought they made you disappear, and we were quite upset over that. So here you are. So,
yeah, a bit of cosmic radiation or something. I don't know. That was weird.
Matthew, we've got 5 minutes. And I'll tell you what, we've got 5 minutes. I'm going to talk to David to get you back on here. If not next Thursday, maybe we'll have a special edition broadcast with you. I think that would be terrific. How's that sound? Are you open to that?
Sure, absolutely.
Because we're expanding here. I was talking to David Doolin, who's really been a great guy. He's really doing a lot of work. And I said, we started with a 20-minute broadcast once a week, went to an hour. Then we ended up two times a week. So David says to me, you think we could do 5 nights a week? I said, I don't know, David. I tell you what, it's a lot of work, but having guys like you on is well worth it. So, all right, 5 minutes. Could you kind of wrap it up as to where you think we should go from now, and then we'll call it a night.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, geostrategically speaking, I do know that we are going to get a new system. We're not going back to the old, era of globalization as it was known from the early 70s until the collapse really took hold in 2019. Even before COVID, the system started melting down as it had to. It was built upon rates of unpayable debts that were holding up the biggest inflation of bubbles upon bubbles of speculative, fictitious capital that have ever been created in human history. So it could do nothing but blow up by virtue of it being not an economy, but more of a time bomb. That was what was created with the policy changes of the late 60s, early 1970s, especially with the creation of the World Economic Forum, Kissinger's separation of the U.S. dollar from the gold reserve standard onto the floating markets, the creation of the petrodollar. All of that was orchestrated to create this effect that we're now living through. The real issue is the real economy is the only thing that really matters. The unpayable debts have to be erased by debt jubilee. We need a population which is understanding, both in Canada as well as the US, that the blowout of the unpayable debts that are going to take down the banking system cannot be aimed at the people. Our savings, the part of the economy which sustains agriculture, the necessary industries and jobs needed to maintain stability in the life of people, that has to be protected with a firewall of defense. The sovereign nation state, the powers of the U.S. Constitution give the government, give the people the ability to do that and let Wall Street take their own losses. No more too big to fails. No more like we're going to print infinite money to bail you out. None of that. This is what was done in the 1930s to break up the Wall Street banks, to make sure that they just took their own losses. Bankers went to jail. Today, none of that happened. So you need to get a population which is understanding of that needed policy. Additionally,
I'm sorry, Matt.
Yep.
2 things. One is let's follow up the next time we have you on, which is going to be sooner rather than later on that topic. Okay.
Sure.
And the reason why you're running out of time, but I want to make sure I got a lot of people asking about your books. Where can they get your books?
They can go to CanadianPatriot.org is my website, and the books are easily available. You see signs saying "Buy the books, buy the books." Also, we've got new documentaries that people can watch. The books "Untold History of Canada," 4 volumes; "Clash of the Two Americas," 3 volumes, and easy to find. You can definitely find
CanadianPatriot.org.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna talk to David. We might have to have a special edition with you on.
Sure.
For a good solid hour. I think it's terrific. You're teaching us a lot. A lot of Americans are fascinated over this. This is great stuff. I really appreciate your fight for freedom and liberty, for helping not only the Canadian people, but people worldwide with your knowledge. So maybe one day we'll see you run for office.
Maybe. Who knows?
Maybe. Thank you, Matthew. God bless you. Thanks so much. Stand by, folks. Thank you.
Bye, folks.
Folks, I could actually sit with Matthew, and I'm sure you could too, listen to this guy for a couple hours. I mean, another product of a great country. You got a great country, folks. A lot of good people there. Listen, folks, a couple of things. I'm going to go off to a meeting now. Project Maple Leaf. We're working pretty hard. We got a good team that's been working for a good year. And so I made a commitment to you, and we're going to keep it. The other thing is this. As I've said, we're working hard. We've expanded. We're doing a lot of work. We want to get a lot more guests on that know what they're talking about. And every guest we've had on are credible. They're articulate. And it's pretty much shaking the core, I believe, of the government here in the United States, those in power, and those in Canada. And perhaps those who are watching from other countries, their government leaders, I'm sure at some point are going to be concerned about what's going to happen in their countries based on what happens here and in Canada. But we do need your help, all right? I haven't done this for 2 years, but I've done it quite often now because we really need your help. Folks, www.campaignforamerica.com, it's right there. I had a few people that sent me $2 or $3 this past week. That's all we're asking for, all right? We figured, look, we know you got bills to pay. We know you have taxes and food to put on the table. But this is a fight for our freedom and liberty. We're not funded by anybody but the people, not the government, not corporations. We've worked we've been on the air for 3 years here in the United States, and for I think now a little under or over a year deeply involved with Canada, which we're honored to do this. I mean, we're grateful that God's led us your way. But those in America also, we're asking for you to make a contribution if you could. It's a matter of it's a matter of the survival for our country. And if you don't donate to us and you find another organization that's doing exactly what we're doing, well, you know what? Send them the help they need. We're all in this together, but we know that we're making so much headway here through Campaign for America that I just don't want to see this disappear. It won't come hell or high water, believe me, but we want to keep going and we want to get stronger. So www.campaignforamerica.com. Off I go, folks. Going to have to get with our team that's been working hard on building a lot of research, information, and intelligence that we plan to get to the authorities that we said we would when Project Maple Leaf is complete. That's it, folks. So I'm going to end with that little video. Gives us a food for thought on why we're here today. We're here today for those who will be here tomorrow. Thank you. See you Monday night, tonight. Oh, no, tomorrow night, Friday night, 7 p.m. The Crockpot Farmer from Canada. He's going to bring us some real good information about what's going on with the farming industry in Canada and perhaps here in America. Thank you all. God bless you. God bless all of you who have prayed for us and continue to support us. Thank you so much. See you next time. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers.